Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more r/AmITheButtHole. And if you love a Reddit story, it'd be really helpful if you wouldn't mind consider clicking that like button, that subscribe button too. As I said, it really helps out the channel, helps us to continue to grow, and maybe one day I'll get to that 100k. Probably not though. And let's crack on with today's stories. Much love, guys. And our first story comes from Greater Is He, who says, "Am I the arsehole for telling the kids their dad took this year's Christmas away from them? Please read before you judge. Thank you." So I'm a working mother of 3 kids, 9, 11 and 5. My husband used to have a job but was let go at the end of 2020 and hasn't worked since then. Yes, he worked in a few places here and there, like the gas station, but he couldn't keep it because he lacked motive and passion. All in all, our financial situation isn't so great, but I've decided to start saving money to be able to get the decent Christmas celebration the kids wanted and couldn't get in 2019 and 2020. I put money aside to buy decorations and prepare meals and also gifts, but just a couple of days ago found out my husband had taken $500 out of my account and from the money I saved. The rest of my salary goes to bills and groceries, and gave them to his little brother to help him out in child support. I found out and had a big argument with him about how he essentially stole this year's Christmas from the kids to help his irresponsible brother pay for child support. My husband apologetically said he had no choice and was pushed by family to contribute and pay part of his brother's child support, otherwise they won't see their nephews and grandchildren, since his brother's baby mama is vicious and spiteful. The kids came in and I just told them that unfortunately I can't afford Christmas this year and it's because of their dad who took it away from them by taking the money I saved. There was utter silence and my husband glanced at me in disbelief. He told the kids to go to their rooms and screamed asking what the fuck is wrong with me to spout this kind of bullshit in front of the kids. I said it's the truth and that I sacrificed so much to save money to give the kids some joy this holiday that he selfishly took the money and gave it away. He said he would pay me back in time before Christmas, but I don't see this possible since he doesn't even have gas money. He got pissed and said I shouldn't tell the kids that he took their Christmas money and that the psychological damage I'm doing to the kids is worth a lot more than the money, and accused me of turning the kids against him and making them resent him for trying to help out a family member, and stormed off and spent time with his family who accused me of causing my children mental traumas by saying that their dad took Christmas away from them and alienating them from him. Adding this, just wanted to say that the kids know that mummy is the one who brings home money, and so if Christmas gets cancelled and because of money, they'll think it's because of me. I had many conversations with them about it, and last thing I want them to see is them disappointed in me for something that is not my fault. Thank you. Now I can tell already where this post is going to go. It's going to go not the arsehole or everyone sucks, yeah. Just simple as that. It's going to go not the arsehole for reasons that, you know, husband could have had a job but keeps dropping out because of motive and passion and giving money away which was saved because the kids didn't have a 2019-2020 Christmas. Mum's finally saved up and then he's gone and just used the money without talking about it first. But I can see everyone sucks here verdicts coming in simply because, you know, you don't say this sort of stuff in front of your children. And it is the kids that I feel absolutely sorry for in this situation. I just had a vivid image of them walking through the door together and then you sort of dropping this bomb on them. There's going to be no Christmas this year because of your father. And don't get me wrong, I totally get the frustration. Something you save so hard to be able to provide for your children. And I'm not excusing what the father did. What the father did was totally wrong. Absolutely wrong. But is there no way to still give these children some kind of Christmas? And of course, I don't want mum to look like the bad guy because she hasn't provided Christmas, you know, when it was the dad's fault. But I'm only coming from the side of, you know, the poor kids who just had Christmas completely ripped away from them from under their feet because of what dad did. But Slinky Malinky 20 says your husband sucks. Be done with his deadbeat self and family. At least alone, you wouldn't have to worry about him stealing from you in addition to sucking up to the family resources with no return. Not the arsehole. No Policy 4095 says everyone sucks here. Your husband is a deadbeat, which apparently runs in his family. No way should he have used that money to pay his brother's child support, especially when he's not doing anything to support his own family. Deadbeats suck. Look like you married into a family of them. 2. You played a large part in ruining your children's Christmas by not only airing out your marital disputes to them, but also just tossing out Christmas altogether because your husband is a jerk. You had an opportunity to work with your children to teach them that Christmas isn't all about the money, gifts and things, and about family and togetherness. You still do, and instead you decided to use them to punish your husband. You and your husband need to have one-of-life conversations. F-Bomb Mom says, not the arsehole. Why should OP take the blame for having no Christmas? She's the only breadwinner in the house. She's sacrificed to make this happen. The husband needs to take some responsibility for this and explain to the kids why he felt brother deserved Christmas more than they did. OP, I would leave this guy. He's dishonest, lazy, and steals from his own family. Huge character flaws that don't make for a good marriage. You will always be given 110% and he will always be taking. We'll see if his brother gives him $500 to help him when he owes you child support. Unit Healthy says, not the arsehole. Kick him to the curb. He's placing his deadbeat brother and I guess his mum above you and your kids. He needs to go stay with one of them until he gets his act together and becomes an adult. Ask his mum and brother to send you the $500 for your kids and let them say no and explain why the other set of kids is more important. ETA, please open a new account in just your name and keep most of your money in it. Loomis Loma says, everyone sucks here. Do not, I repeat, do not bring your kids into this. Holy shit. My family had monetary problems for my whole life, and it was only after I turned 16 that my mum told me it was because my father didn't pay child support. I already resented my father for other reasons by then, but at least that was my choice. That is such a horrible thing to do because you're not hurting your husband, you're hurting your children. You said your brother-in-law's ex is vicious and spiteful. That's what you're doing. Never ever use your children against your partner. That being said, your husband also sucks. You don't get to take $500 from your own family without consulting your partner. I think it's gotten beyond the stage where he needs a job he's passionate about. He just needs a job. I worked a job I hated for 6 years whilst getting a degree to do better things. If you're that bad off, he just needs any job he can get. Edit. Fun fact. I read this aloud to my mum. Raised us alone for years with my father never paying child support despite us literally being in poverty. She was grumbling about how awful the father was until I hit the part where OP snapped, at which point she froze and went, what the fuck? She agrees there was no need for OP to bring the children into it. VT says everyone sucks here. He never should have taken the money regardless of the reasoning, but you should not have said that to your kids. That was so unfair and manipulative to them. I says, not the arsehole, damn him. Furthermore, he lacks accountability and responsibility. Why does his family know how much money you have saved? I would open my own account without his name. And our next story comes from Not Everyone's Hero, who asks, am I the arsehole for not letting my husband fly to another country to help during a family emergency? My father-in-law is old and unwell. So now, whenever there is an issue, my in-laws look towards my husband, oldest son, to solve them. It's not just his immediate family either, his entire extended family also expect the same thing. It would be fine if we lived in the same country, but we don't, so my husband often has to fly away to solve an issue someone else could have fixed or to play family judge, jury and executioner. The latest issues are the consequences of a series of bad decisions made by my brother-in-law finally catching up to him. He got someone that isn't his wife pregnant and she's threatening to blow his life up, and he got involved in a bad crowd and is now struggling to get out. My mother-in-law called my husband to ask him to come and fix things. He told me and was planning to leave immediately, but I asked him not to go. I don't want to be left alone right now, and my brother-in-law is a big boy who knew what he was doing and can do just as much as my husband can to fix things. I started crying when I asked him not to go, and he ended up staying. A few days later, my brother-in-law called me to beg me to let my husband come because he desperately needed his help and that it was time-sensitive emergency. I told him no, and he said I was being selfish and that as a family we should help each other during a crisis. Now he's angry at me. My mother-in-law also asked me to reconsider because the situation was causing stress for my father-in-law, and having my husband there would help ease his worry. Although he hasn't said anything, my husband also clearly wants to go. He's on the phone constantly with his family, is trying to solve things from here, but is very clearly frustrated that he can't do more / that he isn't there. Am I the arsehole? Coming in with, I find it a bit ironic that, brother-in-law is the one calling you selfish. The guy that got another woman who isn't his wife pregnant, the one that's requiring his brother to come deal with his issues, knowing full well that you have a newborn at home that you need to take care of and probably need support dealing with at the same time. So it's definitely going to be a not the arsehole from me. But Solid Gold Noodle says, nice, not the arsehole, OP has a newborn. More than reasonable to ask her husband not to go. Even without that, I think it's perfectly reasonable to ask your husband not to drop everything and fly internationally during a global pandemic every time there's some family drama, since this apparently happens rather frequently. I think it's crazy that the family would ask this of the husband. Also, who is expected to pay for all these flights? And lastly, what could he even do? His brother got a mistress pregnant. Literally, what could this husband possibly do? Gift the husband's family a Zoom subscription for the holidays and call it even. Damn Dutchman says, not the arsehole. You have a newborn at home and your husband wants to leave the country while we're all still struggling through a pandemic. His brother made his choices and he can still be an adult and fix them. Your husband should be worried about his immediate family, which is you and his new child. He can't keep supporting his extended family. Osaben92 says, not the arsehole. To drop your life and fly international on a whim for something that isn't a medical emergency is ridiculous and excessive. He should have stayed single or moved back home if he wanted to be that involved, but he didn't, so that's on him. Good luck, OP. Specialist Living asks, does brother-in-law's wife know about all this? Because that's a shady ass family if they're hiding it from her. Brother-in-law is an idiot and doesn't want to take care of the mess he made. He needs to grow up and stop relying on this weird toxic family behavior. Not the arsehole, OP, but your husband needs to talk to his sister-in-law and be a decent human being. Or you. Sarakel Rising says, not the arsehole. In some cultures this is normal, but his family is you first, and if you have children, and then everyone else. Your brother-in-law is a big boy who got himself into whatever mess he got himself into. Now he has to find his way out like everyone else. And Parsimonious Salad says, you have a husband problem. He needs to prioritize his family, meaning you and your new child, over drama of the extended family that they can learn to sort out for themselves. If brother-in-law can call you to beg for your husband's help, he can figure out what to do about his own mess. I frankly don't understand what your husband is expected to do there anyway, that brother-in-law can't do for himself. If it's money that your husband is bringing into the situation to try and help solve things, he can offer that from a distance, and I suspect there are untapped resources available from all women in the family who've been taking a backseat to everything. Maybe they should have been allowed some control, but that's not your problem, not the arsehole. Now, what do you guys make of this one? Should OP's husband be going across to help out brother-in-law in this situation that he's got himself into, or not? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll move on to another story. And our next story comes from Tea Leaf Tea, who asks, am I the arsehole for quitting my job after a 16-hour shift? I-19 male, work at a gas station for the past 7.5 months. I just put in my 2 weeks notice last week. I worked an 8-hour shift. I finished all of my paperwork and waited on my co-worker. We call him A, who was supposed to work overnight. 5 minutes pass, I give A a call, but he doesn't answer. I try to give both managers S and R, we call them, but neither of them answered, and it's now 12 AM. I could just walk out, let them deal with this, but as the only person who was on the shift, I decided I couldn't leave the store. I stayed all night long. This is when I was honestly considering quitting on the spot. I'd already put in my 2 weeks notice, plus I live in an employment at will state, so 5:30 AM rolls around. My manager doesn't clock in till 6 AM, but upon seeing my car, came in and asked me why I was still here. I tell him A never showed up to work, so I stayed. I showed him my call log of me calling him an S multiple times throughout the night, as well as A. He told me that he drove his fiancée to work last night at 10 PM and must have passed right out last night. He said I should have texted him because he was up at 4 AM, and in his words, if I had seen your message, I would have hopped in the shower and gotten here. While it's a nice sentiment, that meant that I was up at 4 AM, and I don't know anyone who doesn't check their phone in the morning or use their phone as an alarm anymore. There is no way he wouldn't have seen all the missed calls last night. I brush it off, do my paperwork for the night again, and ask him if they're going to make me work my shift today because I was scheduled for another 8-hour shift. He called S, who answered immediately. She said her ringer was off last night. S tells me that I would possibly have to work my shift if they couldn't get hold of A. I was too exhausted to really plead my case, and I was on the verge of crying because I was hurting so bad at this point and starting to feel sick. R told me that he'd messaged me about whether or not I would work tonight. I said okay and went home. I told my parents all about the issue, and they said it was a little suspicious, how I couldn't get a hold of anyone. Preciously, S has never missed any of my calls ever, but she answered pause call immediately when her ringer is off. It feels suspicious. A jab because I had put in my 2 weeks notice. My dad told me I need to quit immediately. Mum even asked if anyone apologized or thanked me, and they didn't. I sent me a message that I needed to come in at 5 PM and work a 6-hour shift. I just worked a 16-hour shift and you want me to work 6 hours more. That's 22 hours in a short amount of time. He told me a 4-hour shift, not 6. I told him I wasn't coming in and I've decided to quit on the spot. A part of me truly feels guilty about it because I've always worked through my 2 weeks notice and it just feels wrong. So am I the arsehole in this situation? Now, I'm not going to get into the legalities of this at all because I don't know if you have certain laws about how much time you're actually allowed to work, etc, etc. But what I will say and what I feel in this situation is they knew that person wasn't coming in and they were just playing silly. Oh, I just took my girlfriend to work, got home and passed right out without checking your phone in between things. I mean, it's possible, sure. And then was up at 4 AM again, never checked your phone, blah, blah, blah. Quite frankly, I don't believe it. I think they were playing you for a fool. And I don't blame you for quitting on the spot as well. As long as, you ain't got yourself in any further trouble. No issues. I don't know if they can withhold pay for that, the 2 weeks you've just dropped out of. And even if you care about it, but, Let's move to the comments to see what they say. Jeepers Creepers 74 says not the arsehole. They are managers. They get paid more for dealing with emergency like A's no show. If they think working 22 hours within a 36-hour period is doable, I guess that's a lucky thing for them, as they're about to find out how it feels. Significant I says not the arsehole. I think you're confused about right to work. You can quit a job in any state. German Big Guy says not the arsehole. I don't know your labour laws, but in my country this is highly illegal. Between end of shift and start of the next one has to be at least 10 hours around here, so don't feel bad. They caused a mess themselves. 1962 Michael says not the arsehole. You're probably right that at minimum they didn't rush to help you because you had put in your notice, and A may have decided to stick it to you since you were leaving as well. Don't worry about leaving them without coverage. They're lucky you didn't just walk out and leave the store open. Shane Viz says not the arsehole. Sounds like to me that they already knew your co-worker wasn't coming in. They also knew that you wouldn't just close up and go home, so they decided to play dumb and, oh, I must have missed your call. So the place must have stayed open all night and they wouldn't get their asses chewed out for losing revenue for the company. Now, what do you guys make of this situation? If you was in OP's shoes and, no one was answering the calls, you was at the end of your shift, what would you have done? Could you have walked out the store? Was he a key holder? Was he able to lock up the store? I don't know. Many questions. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and we'll move on to another story. And our next story comes from Not My Problem, who asks, am I the arsehole for saying that a customer's daughter bullied me back in high school? We weren't friends. So I worked at a department store in a mall near where I grew up. I was bullied in high school. Not to the end of my rope, but it wasn't pleasant. I don't think about it a lot, but sometimes people from my high school come through my store. I just do my job and am pleasant to them because I need the money. Anyway, a woman came through to pick up an order and she gave me the last name and spelled it. I thought, hey, that's Christian and Katie's last name from high school. It was a pretty unique one. I didn't say anything at first, just a normal pleasant chatter. She took the stuff out of the bag to make sure it was right and commented, my daughters will love these, they just finished college, etc, etc. She essentially confirmed whose mum she was. I was just making small talk and said, oh, I think I went to high school with Christian and Katie last name. She said, oh yeah, how funny, were you friends? I said, oh no, I just knew they were in my grade. She said, were you on the volleyball team with them? I said, no, I don't think so. She looked at my name tag and said, that's odd, I think I remember them talking about a penny back then. You must have come over for their birthday or something. That just kind of made me sad because I've never been to a birthday party before, and I said, no, I definitely never came over. Christian bullied me and I don't think I ever talked to Katie. Her entire demeanor changed, which was okay honestly. I had people in line. She didn't say a single thing after that and just kinda left without taking her order sheet. I didn't chase her down to get it to her. She'll have a copy in her email anyway. The next customer in line said something like, woof, that was awkward. And my co-worker at the counter agreed. They both laughed about it, but later on my co-worker said it was pretty douchey to tell a parent their kid was a bully. She has a daughter. I don't have kids. I have a better fish named Carl. On the one hand, yeah, I guess it was like 4 years ago, but at the same time it happened, and I'd think a parent would want to know their kid was a jerk to others so they could talk about it. Even as adults, am I the arsehole? And we'll start with Min's AITA, who says, not the arsehole. Mum just realised she heard her daughter talking about somebody she bullied and did not put 2 and 2 together. She just realised by pushing she learned her daughter is or was an arsehole and a bully and was embarrassed by it. Wrong Construction 40 says, you're the arsehole, you brought the connection up. What did you think was going to happen? She didn't know who you were. Her daughter's probably never mentioned you. She was trying to be polite to someone who seemed to know her family. The entire interaction wouldn't have happened if you hadn't forced it. What did you think you would tell their mother how awful her daughter was and she would tearfully beg for your forgiveness and call your ex-bully on the phone in front of you and disown her for her crimes? You put this woman who just wanted to do her shopping in peace in an uncomfortable position for no reason. Off My Lawn Jackass says, no one's an arsehole here, you probably shouldn't have said anything and she shouldn't have pushed. These errors aren't enough to make anyone the arsehole. 9 says, you're the arsehole. Why would you bring up the connection only to hit her with that? It was completely unnecessary. Drone Chastity says, not the arsehole. It was small talk. She got hit in the face that her daughter was a bully. These types of things, in my opinion, need to happen a lot more. Sarah Kell Rising says, mild, you're the arsehole, only because you were working at your place of business and should have tried to navigate the conversation a little more professionally in another direction. Had you run into her at a coffee shop or a mall and started the conversation, then it would be completely appropriate to let her know her daughters were little shits towards you during your school years. Key South says, I'm sorry you were bullied, but I have to say you're the arsehole because you initiated that connection. You never had to say you knew her daughters. It would be different if she recognized you, but this negative experience was entirely your doing. Now, what do you guys make of this one? A mixed bag of opinions right there, but as always, I would love to know what you think on this story. Let me know in the comments below. A huge thank you for spending your time with me today. If you did enjoy the stories, please consider hitting that like button as it really helps out. Please don't forget to do that. Subscribe if you like a Reddit story. We post twice daily. And if you like a cheeky little extra story now and then, you can join us through either membership systems, YouTube membership by clicking that join button down below, or the link tree in the description and clicking on Patreon and joining up there. I post little videos every now and then with a little cheeky story or so. Thank you so much for your love, support and time, and I will see you in the next one. Take care guys, much love.